Hello and welcome to Home Media Minefield presents Let's See What's Out There Loki Live, a weekly video stream and podcast currently focused on Marvel's Loki series, which is available to watch on Disney+. In today's episode, we're going to be discussing and having a spoiler-filled discussion around episode 5 of 6, the penultimate episode, which is entitled Journey into Mystery. So if you're new to the channel, if you're here watching us live, please get involved in the live comments. I'd love to know what you guys think out there. We've obviously got lots of opinions with the panel that I have today as well. I guess the big question is, has Loki gone wokey or Wizard of Oz? So we will look into that, and I'm sure everything will be up for discussion. I'm Keith Isles. I'm an independent filmmaker and lifelong enthusiast of cinema and television. And I am really pleased to be joined by a panel for this debate tonight. So first up, I'd like to welcome, joining us from New York is my co-host on the Let's See What's Out There podcast, Pete Mealy. Hey, Pete. How are you?
Thanks for having me.
We always have you, Pete. And I see you're wearing the Star Trek Delta there. So obviously in true Marvel MCU fashion, right? You came prepped.
Exactly.
We know your preferred franchise, Pete, and that's absolutely fine. But I do feel that we need someone that's going to give us some knowledge of Marvel Comics, the MCU, all things Marvel. So I'm really pleased once again to be joined by filmmaker Clive Ashenden. Hey, Clive.
Hello.
How are you today?
I'm good, thanks. Yeah, looking forward to chatting Loki again.
Indeed. You've got your map backdrop as always. So you're getting the places ticked off as places visited.
Yeah, very, very slowly. For some reason, I'm not going to do a lot of that over the last, year and a half.
Well, this is true. Although you've been on, we know that you were one half of what they based Falcon and the Winter Soldier on, right? You were definitely one of those super spies that was stealth somewhere in Eastern Europe, yeah?
Well, I did used to have a metal arm, it's true, but yeah.
Well, talking of which, we have a secret agent who was your partner in crime. He was one of our regular guests when we were doing the Falcon and Winter Soldier streams, and I'm really pleased that he's able to come back to join us to talk about Loki. Welcome, writer Graham Williams, also known as the G-Man, on today's
hello there, everybody. It is a return to Oz for me.
A return to Oz. There we go. So we know what area you're sitting in then.
Yeah, the living room.
Possibly. Right. Well, our other guests that are usually here, Claire Bueno, she hopes to join the stream at some point. It's typical. This week I've done a live stream and everybody, because we're live, everybody's running late. So, but Claire Bueno will hopefully join us at some point. And unfortunately, Ian David Diaz, the Mega Geek, who always has an opinion about this stuff, is actually tied up on a job. He's actually on a film set at the moment, waiting for the sun to go down to get that magic hour shot. So unfortunately, I don't know whether he's going to join us before the end of the stream tonight, but he's not with us. So kicking things off, it's just us four guys. Graham, I would like to start with you, actually, because you've not been on any of the Loki streams so far. We've had a lot of differing opinion between the collective about whether we like Loki or not. Oh, a Freudian slip there, whether we like Loki or not. And I just wondered where you are with this. Are you enjoying the show? What's your background with with the character of Loki. And yeah, just hear a bit from you.
Sure, okay. Firstly, though, can I just say that I've genuinely enjoyed, on a weekly basis, being watching and listening to you guys on this live cast as well on YouTube. It's been a highlight of my week, but it's because I have
you need to get out more.
No. Yeah. Clive was mentioning something about not being able to not being able to go anywhere and being stuck indoors. I don't know. Maybe it's a local thing. I can't believe it's a global thing. So listen, guys. No, you're doing a great job so far, and I'm really pleased to be back on this. So thank you. On to Loki itself. With this one. As you know from the last one, especially after WandaVision, I've really wanted to like this one. I love Tom Hiddleston's Loki. I've loved what he and the writers have done throughout the MCU movies. I can't quite love it just yet. I suppose that is it in a nutshell. It's quirky. There's relationships in there that have played out well, no less, that it being Tom Hiddleston and Owen Wilson, so Loki, and Mobius. I genuinely enjoyed their sparring. I went back to episode 1 just last night, and a lot of what had been happening was that there's a lot of good dialogue that actually has given us clues as to what would come. So that was interesting. I've really enjoyed that. I know I'll probably bring up more of what I am enjoying and the positives as we go through this cast over the next few minutes or what have you. But ultimately, the big love of Loki, the series, the TV series for me, has been the music. It has knocked me over. I was happy. I happily found it on YouTube again today, and was listening to, and it's just something out there that it's really resonating with me. Pun intended. Everything from the theremin through to the orchestration, the music, I'm absolutely adoring. So I'm really pleased that has been introduced to my life. I'm sure we will debate more, especially from this episode as well, and pick up where you guys left off last week. But yeah, ultimately, guys, I'm seeing now, unless number 6, episode 6, absolutely smashes it out the park, that the MCU and what they've done with the movies does best suit exactly that format for me, the movies. The TV series, and I'll do an Ian David Diaz here, it feels that some of them are a bit stretched and they're putting fillers in, and then that is only in the writing, by the way. It is to do with the writing, like kind of stretching it. And if you take, I don't know, like a rubber or gum, and you really stretch it, you can just see where the holes are, can't you? And you can see that things just don't quite hold together. And unfortunately, with the writing of this one, even though it's, again, there's more in the relationships that I'm enjoying, and there's surprises in there. The plot holes just niggle me a bit as well. But again, I'm sure this will come out in debate as we go through. But yeah, I've kept this one. So you know, I've kept up with this series far more and been a lot more positive in this one than Fatatus, as I called it, the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I lost the plot by episode 6 on that one, I'm afraid. But this one, yeah, it could be an amazing sixth episode. May do it, and we'll all be singing and dancing around a Norse campfire, drinking ale and whatnot, and celebrating the MCU again.
That'll be good. No, absolutely. Well, no, thanks for that. Very concise. As Garbage has put there, well, G-Man, this roundup and review, it's been entertaining more than Loki has. And Garbage also says, great effects, great music, good actors. Shame about the scripts, though. Shame about Loki bashing and belittling of him. So hello, Garbage out there. We've also got Mr. Brown Alliance is out there today. Yahtzee, Instrophobe, Ryan Young. There's a number of people watching. So if I haven't mentioned you yet, don't worry, I will. But thank you, everyone. And yeah, as you rightly, and as Garbage has said there, rightly mentioned, the music by Natalie Holt. We've talked about her contribution and her music and her filmography on previous episodes, and I would agree that there's some good work going there. So before we dig into this then, as is usually our custom, just for those who might need a little bit of a reminder, Pete usually gives us a brief synopsis of episode 5, Journey into Mystery. So take it away, Pete.
Loki, and Loki explain to Loki that there's a giant smoke monster that eats everything, that ends up where they are. They run back to their Loki lair and talk Loki things. Back in Time Cop Central, Sylvie and the judge talk about the TVA and what it all means, and we find out that the disappearing sticks take people to the end of the timeline where a giant smoke monster eats everything. There's some backstabbing, and then Sylvie stabs herself with a disappearing stick. Back in the Loki lair, Lokis are joined by a bigger bunch of Lokis, and they Loki, and Loki the Loki, and then Loki does a Loki, and Loki. Meanwhile, Loki takes Loki, and they go to fight the smoke monster. They meet up with Sylvie and Mobius. Sylvie convinces them to enchant, not fight the monster, and so Loki does some magic while Sylvie and Loki enchant the smoke monster, who reveals to them what is after the end of the timelines. Credits.
Love it. So just in case we didn't realize, this show's called Loki.
Oh, is that what I thought? Pete had a bit of a stutter.
And I like the fact that we've connected Lost to it as well, because I did indeed think that it was very reminiscent of the smoke monster from Lost. So yes, and Yahtzee Instrophobe there's put Richard E. Grant stole the entire episode, which I'm sure a lot of people agree with.
Richard E. Grant, which is Withnail and there's a Withnail and I game. So that is every time a drink is taken there. But seeming as Yahtzee Istophobe has mentioned Richard E. Grant, I'm going to take a drink of alcohol. Thank you.
Yeah. There we go. You've been waiting for that excuse, Graham. I can tell.
Oh boy, thank you.
If you take a drink of alcohol every time one of us mentions Richard E. Grant, you're going to be on the floor by the time we finish this, I think.
Yes. I'm sure. Listen, just a quick couple of production credits, which we always do. So this episode was written by Tom Kaufman. Tom is previous work. He's one of the staff writers on Rick and Morty. So obviously showrunner Michael Waldron employed Tom for this. So, giving him an opportunity there to be part of the writing staff on this. And also another thing we've mentioned is standout as well as the music. Everybody, myself included, has been very impressed with the cinematography on this show. That is right up there along with the visual effects and the, in the music and all the other stuff that we've been complimenting. So that's been done by Autumn Durold for this entire series so far. Her work includes films Teen Spirit, The Sun Is Also a Star. She's actually got quite a lot of credits, originally starting in short films and moving up to do features and now episodic television. So fantastic. I mean, I think we're all in agreement that whether we've got issues with this show in terms of the actual story and or anything like that, the writing, we all agree that the show looks fantastic. And of course, a cinematographer is a big part of that, along with the visual effects people and all the other good people that work very hard on this stuff. So every week we try and call out a crew member part of the creative crew, head of department, to say good job. So good job there, Autumn, I would say.
Yeah, so I agree.
So, Clive, you've been pretty positive about the whole thing so far. Where are you feeling this week? What's your thoughts on where we're at?
Well, this. I think the thing with this episode is it was a bit after the Lord Mayor's show, wasn't it? Because we had like the big reveals, we had the big like bang bang bang. Now we have the turn, and now that we're back, it's almost like we're back in episode 3 again. It's a side quest. It's a side quest with a fantastic highlight guest star in Richard E. Grant, and I enjoyed it. And I'm sure there will be things that were in this episode which obviously there's the things they have to set up in order to get to the final bits. But yeah, I enjoyed it. It was fine. It didn't wow me. But the only thing that wowed me was Richard E. Grant. I thought he was great as classic Loki. I loved his character.
Oh, Mr. Brown.
I mean, I'm a fan anyway. I totally agree with Mr. Brown Alliance there. He's I mean, it's like they just they gave him this on a plate. I mean, it literally ends with his sacrifice allowing our Loki and Sylvie to walk hand in hand into this into mystery. Maybe are they journeying into mystery? We don't know.
Yes. And that's a comic book reference, right? The title of this episode, is that right? That was when
that's right. Yeah,
Thor first appeared or something. Is that correct?
Yeah, it was a comic in which Thor and Loki made their first appearance. So yeah. Oh, and there's loads of little Easter eggs in this one. Fun stuff for comics fans, which you have to be super, into the sort of deep stuff. Things like the Thanos helicopter popping up in the background in certain shots.
That's the yellow helicopter, yeah.
which is not a particular thing I was aware of until I found out about it through the wonder of the internet, which is it's great. The idea of Thanos flying around in a helicopter, get his ass thoroughly whipped by Spider-Man. This is like obviously pre-Infinity Gauntlet Thanos, who apparently wasn't all that. So yeah.
Fair enough. Pete, you've been sort of fairly on the fence with this. There have been some episodes you've enjoyed, some not so much. Where are you feeling at this point in the show?
Still really firmly on the fence, but I'm also well aware that we're 5 episodes into a 6-episode series. So I think that assuming that episode 6 is going to turn the entire ship around is a bit much, because there are some parts of this that are just not going to be good. I think there's going to be a fair amount of this that we're not going to be able to rewatch, right? Or there won't be a desire to rewatch it the way that I know I rewatch most of the other Marvel movies. I think that, like you said, Grant, like there's a lot of stretching going on, and I think there's also just a lot of weird writing in this episode in particular. Like the whole Sylvie and Judge back and forth. I was like, what is going on here? What are they trying to do? They're sort of making half steps in different directions, and it just felt like they needed to tell Sylvie that if you got disappeared, you went to the end, you didn't die, and they couldn't figure out how to do that without making her pretend or feel like the Judge was on her side for some reason, which doesn't make sense to me. And so they built this sort of half thing where they were gonna go off together, but then they didn't. I don't know. It just felt really dumb in parts there.
Yeah, Garbage is actually saying in the comments exactly, Pete. I think of it like WandaVision. Nothing happened with episode 1 to go. Turned out to be pointless, in my honest opinion. So, yeah. I know what you mean. For me, I actually did enjoy this episode slightly more than I had the previous two, because I think you pretty much knew that last week I lost. I didn't care. which was, for me, anyone who knows me and knows how passionate I get about all of this sort of stuff, to actually not care and be apathetic about it is quite a worry. That says quite a lot. I was slightly more won over with this week's episode, as I found it sort of quite entertaining. But do I think this is going to stick the landing? Am I loving it? Not massively. One of the things, I'm going to put another slide up here. One of the things that I did kind of think, and I don't know whether anyone else thought this, but obviously somebody mentioned in the chat there about Croaky made it. So we had the alligator version of Loki, which is kind of like out there. But that kind of, in some respects, with the whole multiverse thing, made me think of, it's probably no more out there than the pig being in Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, having
Spider-Ham,
yeah. So I kind of got a bit of a vibe of that. I don't know whether that was just me, but it did make me sort of chuckle, because as you well know, I loved Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, and I think we're sort of going in a similar direction with what they were trying to do here. I don't know. Does anybody disagree with me there, or do you think I'm on point?
What I was thinking was that they were trying to, use Loki kind of like the end of WandaVision, or what we're expecting from Doctor Strange, as sort of another branch into the multiverse, to open up divergent timelines and sort of to get everyone ready for that to be the next phase of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But all I could think while watching this week's episode was like, okay, I get that you're trying to get us ready for that, but you're not really making me excited for it here. It just sort of felt haphazard and flat. And I think there were ways that they could make it really exciting with multiple Lokis, and I think one of the best parts of this episode was when all the 4 different Lokis sort of talked about what they did to make them variants, right? And they started to flesh those characters out. I was way more interested in that 10 seconds or whatever it was than almost anything else. But then when 50 other Lokis showed up, I just sort of was like, too many Lokis.
Yeah, I groaned a bit at that as well. Garbage has said in the comments, what can really happen next week in just one episode? Honestly, Disney don't realize what they are doing. They are putting people off their franchises. So
I'm going to take Pete's comments there, and something I had thought about a couple of episodes ago, because I was reminded of WandaVision and where Doctor Strange is going to go as well. So I'm wondering if they're piecing together this multiverse, definitely, and they've now got this end of time with all these references that actually, and I'd heard on a YouTube video as well about there was Yellow Jacket's helmet apparently, and maybe there was quantum. Was there quantum realm? Was it that had played a part in the last phase of MCU? So whether they're going to actually push it that way, MCU that is, so that we are going to get a bit more weird and wonderful rather than because we didn't get we didn't get space, we didn't get anything off Earth in MCU until Guardians of the Galaxy. Then it was Infinity War. Everything was on Earth bound, and then we started having space. But maybe these series, Potato's obviously the exception there, where they're actually taking it into that weird and wonderful realms, take it that way. And another thought is because it's hinted that Fantastic Four will come in very much later, and we'll have something along those. A big bad will come up soon, but that's what happened in the first time MCU. It's built up with the heroes first, and some badness, major villains just bundled up, and of course became Thanos. But if they're taking it that way, and potentially we will eventually have Fantastic Four, Fantastic Four are explorers, and they don't just explore on Earth, they do explore around the universe and the multiverses as well. So, with your multiverse type comment as well, Keith, so you and Pete, I'm just taking those vibes, and I think that's where my thoughts are going as well, is regardless of whether we think it's entertaining or not, it kind of, for me, shows where MCU is pushing off Earth, as it were. Yeah?
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, Mr. Brown has put in an alternate timeline, Loki is a great show and really entertaining. So I'm pleased to say, actually, we've got another guest just about to join the stream. I'm really pleased that Claire Bueno has made it. So welcome, Claire.
Good evening. Good evening,
How
gentlemen.
Are you?
Very well, thank you. Apologies. I wasn't trying to be fashionably late. I've just been traveling on the road and been stuck in traffic. So forgive me.
Nonsense.
Tardy timekeeping.
You've been on a red carpet or interviewing some famous actor or director about their next piece of work, right?
Not while I've been away. Oh no, I have actually. I'll tell a lie. I did. Yes. Oh, God forgive me, because it's such a good film as well. Sorry. Yes, I was interviewing somebody earlier on today, which meant I had to leave, and it's taken me 4 hours or 5 hours to get here. So yes. I was interviewing somebody today, a lovely French. Well, he's actually an Italian filmmaker, but he lives in France, and it's a lovely French film that he's made. But I'll probably tell you more about that later.
Well, people can find this on Premiere Scene, right? Which will obviously
you will do next week
at the end. Yeah.
The film's called The Two of Us, and it's very good. Yeah,
no worries.
So thank you for inviting me back on.
No problem. You are always welcome on the show. So, Claire, as you've just joined us, what did you think of the latest episode of Loki? Because you've been kind of enjoying the show so far. I know you, for one, have been complimenting the cinematography, and we've talked a little bit about Autumn Durold, who is the cinematographer on this show, before you joined. But I mean, what did you make of this last episode? Where are you at with it?
It was pretty epic. I was just like, oh my goodness. I had to kind of catch my breath, I think, at the end of it. Like, I mean, again, the spectacle of it is just stunning and just outstanding. It felt very kind of Monty Python, in the sense of it's just so surreal. It was like, this is a bit bonkers, what's going on. And I kind of enjoyed it, but I wasn't also sure. And then it kind of, where we see them sort of all kind of merging together and kind of working a bit more as a team, which Marvel tend to do that. It seems to be a bit of a trope where everybody's sort of segmented and they're not getting on, and then all of a sudden they kind of bring everybody together to work together. So there's that similar kind of pattern going on there. But as a whole, again, highly entertaining. We're seeing, I suppose, another Loki or Lokis. That was, I mean, that was quite funny. I mean, you've just got it. It's all a bit tongue in cheek, isn't it? I mean, Richard E. Grant was just pure entertainment value. I mean, you could just imagine him as an actor putting on that costume and going, God, this is just such fucking good fun. You know what I mean?
It certainly wasn't. It certainly wasn't low key, was it?
Oh, it certainly wasn't. It was more pantomime, wasn't it? Really, I suppose. I'm not saying he's pantomime. I mean, he's much, better. But even in the small bits and pieces where we see him, he adds gravitas, doesn't he?
What was his name?
I enjoyed it as a whole.
It's all right. Graham is having a drink every time we mention Richard E. Grant, and I think Claire, you mentioned Richard E. Grant a few times there, and your love for Richard E. Grant, right?
Fuck off.
So Yahtzee has said, I honestly think that the writers of this series cannot fully comprehend the ramifications of the elements they've introduced and how it impacts the MCU, both past and present. I think that's a very, very interesting statement. What do you think about that, guys? In fact, Pete, this sort of feeds into what you were saying, I think. Does it? Oh, Pete, you're muted.
Sorry. I can't think of something that has, I guess I'm trying to break that down still. I don't know that I agree with that, but I want to think it through. I guess I don't know.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah. I put you on the spot. I'm sorry. What about you, Clive? Have you got any thoughts on that? I know you're quite passionate about this show.
I'll tell you what I think they're trying to do with this show, and particularly with this last episode, and it seems like the whole show is asking this question: can people ever really change? And particularly, is it possible for someone like Loki, who is he's literally the god of mischief, right? Is it possible for a leopard to change its spots in that way, right?
Yeah.
Especially because we don't start with Loki from Infinity War. We start with Loki just after the Avengers, right? And so that they've been sort of gradually sort of like pushing and prodding him the whole way through, testing him, showing him that there is other ways to do this. Your standard, I'm just going to escape and then try and make this plan for domination. It's just empty. It doesn't lead to anything. And they've done that with the sort of with the stick of literally the stick with people prodding him or hitting him or belittling him, right? Or they've done it with the sort of with the carrot where you've got whether it's people like Mobius sort of being like the good cop, telling him, no, look, please explain it to me. Why are you doing what you're doing? Like breaking it down. And then then we have this whole episode where it's like Loki meeting all these other Lokis and comparing notes. And in those sort of the wolf pack or whatever they call them, the Lokis that attack from outside.
Yeah.
And then their plan falls to pieces because they can't help backstabbing each other. And you get this sort of it's almost like this object lesson of we can't just keep doing what we've been doing, and then you've got the Richard E. Grant character who, he's called Classic Loki for a reason, not just because of how he's dressed, right?
Yes,
it's because he is like the Loki from the movies. Only what if he survived at the end?
Yes.
And then he makes the choice.
Infinity War. Yeah.
Yeah. He makes the choice to take himself out of the universe essentially and go and live on his own until, and he only gets caught because he goes back into it. But because he's ended up stuck in this kind of limbo world with the smoke monster, then and he's just been seeing all these different versions of himself. It's just made him really cynical of there's no point, we can't, whatever we do, there's no escape, nothing's going to work because we can't change our essential nature. All we can think of is just the standard Loki things. And so then when he sees our Loki and when he sees Sylvie, it's like suddenly he's inspired and he's like, oh, there is a way, not for me, it's too late for me. But so then he sacrifices himself so that they can make it out, and we get that blowing half the budget from the show as he magically recreates Asgard for the sort of the big money shot of the episode. So but so that's what I think the show is trying to be about. But the question is, is that alienating half the audience? Because the people that wanted to watch Loki, were excited to watch Loki, wanted to watch Loki be Loki. And so what they've actually given us is a show where Loki changes into being like a quote better version of Loki. But is that what we want? That's my question. Is that, do we want a better version of Loki, or do we want him to continue to be this trickster character? Because and because obviously they felt they couldn't have a show where he was the hero and he continued to be a right bastard.
Yeah, I mean that's a very good question, and you've clearly thought quite a bit about that. Garbage has said here, I think in all Marvel shows they need to bring down the comedy a few levels. Look at Justice League and Zack Snyder's Justice League. The lower comedy lines works better. I tend to agree with that, I have to say, yes. Sorry, Claire, were you about to add something there?
Yeah, no, just to kind of echo what Clive was saying, really, it feels more like a redemptive story for Loki. And we're seeing this whole kind of arc of him, without wanting to be a cliche, become a better person. And again, you know, I spoke about it in the beginning of when we were watching it, this kind of showing that there's just much more dimension to this person than just being a trickster. And as much as we do want to see that kind of mischievous side of Loki, I mean, he is the god of mischief, but how much can you keep playing on that? And, you know, is it so bad to show that there are much more kind of depths and range to this character? And also for an actor like Tom Hiddleston to be able to play out all the different ranges and different facets of this personality. Remember, he can metamorphosize into different things. So why can't we see different facets and different aspects of that kind of personality? Does that not give us a kind of a bigger color palette to work from?
Yeah, no, I think it does. And also remember that Tom Hiddleston is also a producer on the show. So I'm sure, you know, I'm sure like all actors, you know, range and using different acting chops is always a fun challenge and whatever as well. So Graham, obviously we know you love Richard E. Grant in this, but Richard E. Grant aside,
hold the line, please, caller.
I'm just wondering what your thoughts are on the non-Richard E. Grant version of Loki.
So was that 2 or 3 that I missed?
That was 3, I'm afraid.
Oh God, I'm taking it back to my youth.
This could get messy, couldn't it?
Yeah. Count me down.
Sorry, I'm just making sure. I'm trying not to ignore comments here because they're. Oh, here's a good one. So not B. Ryan Young has put, they've turned an antagonist into a protagonist, and that only really works if the story is a tragedy. So yeah, I think that's an interesting comment.
Yeah,
exactly. I mean, this could well be.
I really agree with that, because one of the things that we're talking about here is Loki changing, and that sort of whole storyline doesn't really resonate with me because he did change. We already watched that conversion through Ragnarok and Infinity War, right? Where we get that revised Loki in a tragedy in the first 10 minutes of Infinity War. And so if the goal of this series was to set that up again, it was pretty pointless because we already got it. And so I was really hoping that was not the point of it, because they were setting themselves up for failure there.
Yeah, I think going back to Clive's point, I hadn't thought it through, and I think it's absolutely spot on where they're going there. But it was something that I'd thought of, and I had the same with WandaVision. I forgot because I lost the plot and didn't really care so much for Tartus. Is that unlike the movies, though, and it was a mindset for me. I'm not sure if it was the same for you and the viewers here, that these are TV series and they're only first series. Okay, so what MCU are doing then is going into a second and however many more after that. So maybe we're getting the teething issues here, or they really are just trying not just work on a different format, but to move their characters into more mature avenues and bring a bit more depth to them that you can have over 6 episodes. Now, granted, they in the writing, I don't think they're doing such a great job. But don't forget, we're probably going to get into a second series of each of these with the characters. So with Loki, I'm maybe it's because it's a genuine appreciation of the Mobius Loki relationship. That when I saw Mobius die in episode 4, I was genuinely gutted because that's one of the major things that was holding me to it. I just genuinely loved them together, and I hope, and I may be, I'm heartbroken next Wednesday, final episode, that Mobius does disappear or whatever. But I know we're focusing on Loki as a protagonist, but don't forget Mobius's change has been massive. Yeah. I think Owen Wilson has been awesome in this. So I absolutely 100%, 200% agree with that, Clive and them there. But I think that my mindset has switched a bit because I've been so used to MCU movies, but they have moved on. You had Iron Man as a trilogy. You had that arc, but actually, no, you didn't have that arc because you had Avengers. You had him becoming a father figure to Peter Parker in Spider-Man Homecoming, and then through it he became the leader, but actually he wasn't because Captain America was Steve Rogers. So there was a clash there, Civil War. But I don't know. I to use this title, let's see what's out there. I've got a bit more patience for this Loki series. WandaVision, I think we were all spoiled. I loved WandaVision to bits. My wife did as well. A great start to the TV series. I'm very much looking forward to the second series and seeing where that's going. As I said, I may go to off-Earth adventures, but maybe they'll do the same with Fatatus. Now we've got Sam as Captain America, or Flying Captain America. Yeah. It'll change again. So I'm thinking that actually I'm just going a bit easy on the writers, even though there are plot holes, and yes, that does get me a bit riled. I just want. I guess I want the buddy, and I'm very much looking forward to then seeing where Marvel take it, because they've set the bar high, in my opinion. It's only my opinion. Yeah. Ian David Diaz. Infinity War and Endgame, I thought, set the bar so high for a movie franchise. Prepare here. That actually, what's going to come after that? I think they've almost created a massive rod for their back of Kevin Feige and everybody else. And I think WandaVision, I know it swapped around in scheduling, but I think they did well there. So again, I guess I'm a bit more patient.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I mean, next to Richard E. Grant, Owen Wilson is definitely the best thing about the show. So I agree. But in terms of the MCU, I mean, one of the things I've always thought about this, and we look at the various phases and whatever, and the MCU started off very much as something, these heroes being introduced into the real world. But I think as the MCU has expanded and got bigger, and we've moved into space and magic and aliens and all sorts of other things, it's almost like it's now the comic books coming to life rather than inserting those characters into real life, if you know what I mean. And I don't know. I've kind of got a feeling that we're in hence the multiverse and what they're setting up and everything. We're in a completely different place now with the whole MCU than when it started. But yeah, cool.
Yeah,
I wonder whether we're a little bit oversaturated.
Well, I mean, that is a good question. I mean, we've gone from having 2 or in some cases 3 movies a year to now, in the space of 6 months, we've had 3 multi-part TV series, which have been like massive movies, right? So
And Black Widow dropped today.
And Black Widow, indeed, is in the cinemas, which I've not. I'll be honest, I've not seen yet. But I think my honest opinion with that, and I haven't seen it, so I'll reserve total judgment till I've seen it. But I just think it's a little bit too late, personally, because we all know where the character ends up. So,
Multiverses.
Multiverse, yes, indeed, yes.
We do know.
Full circle.
David Harbour from Stranger Things. I'm a massive fan of his, not because of the beard, because he's amazing as the character there.
Because he looks like Richard E. Grant.
Nice. Well, actually, when you think of Richard E. Grant, right? Richard E. Grant has now been, he's in the Star Wars franchise. He was in the X-Men franchise, and Richard E. Grant is now in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So Richard E. Grant is doing very well for himself, isn't he? Garbage has made a comment here. Infinity War was outstanding. Was on the complete opposite end of the entertainment scale to Endgame. Appalling. Oh, really? Disney really needed to pull me back in. WandaVision pushed me away. Okay. You see, I actually thought that Endgame was amazing, so I don't totally agree with that comment. But it's an interesting point, nonetheless.
Was it Garbage who mentioned Zack Snyder and the dark universe of DC?
Yes.
No.
Yeah.
Is that?
I think so.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, no. I am not a fan whatsoever. Keith, I have texted you when I've watched one of Zack Snyder's, and I've literally, because I've usually watched it, I won't pay good money to go to the cinema, but I'll rent it off whatever, Amazon as it was, shouting angrily at my screen, and my wife is looking over her screen. It's married life for you. We're in the same room, but you do different things. Secret of a long marriage is the time you spend apart. So no, I'm screaming and shouting like an old man, because I just think that what Zack Snyder's done to DC, gone dark and humorless. I know they're trying to do something different, but having Batman kill again, and Henry Cavill, who's such an amazing actor, having him as a humorless Superman has been horrible. And I'm on, with the MCU, it's made me laugh more as a franchise. It's given me more characters I love, and it's made me love some of the characters as well. And it's a different Spider. I'm a huge fan of Spider-Man from the comics, but no, I just can't love what they're doing with DC there.
Okay. Well, I have to admit, I mean, I'm kind of with Garbage on that one. I actually loved it. And guys watching, when we're done with this stream, go and check out an earlier stream where we talk about whether we loved or hated the Snyder Cut, and that actually does run for nearly 4 hours, like the Snyder Cut. So if you're really bored, it's available as a podcast as well. Check it out. Sorry, I had to.
Let's make a quick suggestion there that I did start to check a bit of that. And I didn't want to get angry at you, Keith, but I think what I will do is watch with Neil and I'll actually go to the
starring Richard E. Grant.
That's right. I will do that, and I will actually drink every drink that Richard E. Grant does drink in that movie instead of going through another Snyder Cut.
Okay, fair enough. So Garbage has also said, which I do totally agree with this comment, but I did love The Mandalorian, so they can do it. if they just try like the CW with Batwoman, and it's all shows against the superb Superman and Lois. And I have to say, yeah, I agree with that comment so much. Superman and Lois, we haven't got it here yet, but what I've seen of that is fantastic. But that's a whole nother podcast. But not Ryan B. Young has said the MCU's problem is that the biggest story with the most popular characters is over. It's like playing GTA.
Grand Theft Auto 5.
Oh, Grand Theft Auto. Thank you. I was like, what the hell is that? Grand Theft. I'm not down with the kids, obviously. Grand Theft Auto 5 after the story mission has been completed. So yeah. Sorry, I'm not a video games guy, so it took me a while to get that one. But I agree with the comment about getting rid of the most popular characters. That's kind of true, right?
It is.
So, sorry, Clive.
Sorry. Okay. I mean, I was just going to say on that, they're starting a new story. I think that's what they're doing, right? We're in a new phase, and it is going to be different, and not everyone is going to like it. I think there is a place for dark superhero stories, but I don't want every single superhero movie to be The Dark Knight. Much as I love that movie, right? I think it's more interesting if we can have lighter superhero stories as well. Superhero stories which, are maybe, more family friendly. But at the same time, I really enjoyed, like the recent show on Prime, The Boys, right, which is adaptation, which is super violent and dark.
I love it.
But then that's full of that's full of humor as well. So
yes.
I think that there's like a whole spectrum of stuff, and they're going to put things along it.
Yeah,
I think
there's room for it all, Clive. There's room. Yeah,
the thing that's worrying me, and going back to what Graham said about this idea about this just season one, the thing that's worrying me is that we got all excited, or at least I did, speaking for myself, like when we heard about all these new Marvel shows, and we're going to get much more character stuff, much more development of people who maybe haven't had as much time, in the various big Marvel films, right? But and that it wasn't going to be like it was before, like with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., where basically you got the impression that whatever happens in these little sideshows, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because it's not the big movies, not the big tentpoles. And it seemed like we were going to get these shows where they were going to matter. They were going to kind of integrate in, they were going to be part of this new, bigger thing. But the worry is that actually they don't matter at all. They're just these like inconsequential little side adventures, which can be a bit of fun, I agree. I'm enjoying this. I've enjoyed this show. It's been a bit fluffy. It's not really, it's not really landed with me in a big emotional way, like say WandaVision did. But it's been fun.
Well, this has been I was going to say this has been the thing that's kind of been good with the Marvel films. Actually, is the fact that even though they're all under one sort of continuity of one cinematic universe, there's been very, very different types of film in there because something like Thor Ragnarok or Guardians of the Galaxy is very different to Captain America Winter Soldier, for example, and that's been kind of the fun of it is they've had enough characters that they've been able to tell these sort of tonally different stories from the sort of history they've created, and they've done that pretty well. But sorry, Graham.
I was going to say that I totally agree. And I guess going on Clive's, it'll be a shame, as it were. It'll be a shame that they're not landing the TV series, especially going into second seasons, because you're right. tonally, it's not just been characters, it's that Kevin Feige's had the chutzpah and the risk to get different writers and directors together for the movies. But it'd be a real shame that MCU went to TV and stretched it too far and didn't do well. And it is actually the movies that, like an issue, like a single issue of a comic, where you can tell a story that worked brilliantly over the 3 to 6 story arcs in comics that didn't quite work. Similar to TV, where it'd be a shame for us, well, for me at least, that the one issue, the one movie that does actually then have an impact on that one continuity further on in all these different issues, these different movies, that is the best format. But we found it out the hard way that actually the TV series stretching out and those wider arcs just aren't working. Yeah, it'll be a real shame that is the case. I hope not, of course. I hope that it'll be, the TV series will be those multi issue, as it were, the comics, multi-issue successes, and we will get more clear the writing, because that's ultimately what I've heard from you guys. We talked about Fatatos, we're talking about it now. It's not the acting, it's not the production design, it's not the directing or anything else, or the music. It's the writing they haven't quite got right. Yeah,
that's quite a good point. I like the way you liken it to the the comics and the different issues, but at least we've got Richard E. Grant, so we're good.
Hail Reg.
So one other thing I just wanted to we always talk about Easter eggs, and I don't necessarily always pick up on all of the comic book Easter eggs because I'm not that well read, but I do tend to pick up on sort of movie Easter eggs. And we talked about on the first episode where they sort of tied in some historical stuff, and we had DB Cooper and whatever mentioned in it. And I just wondered whether this went by anyone or whether you guys picked up on this. There was actually a reference, a ship appeared in the middle of one of the action sequences, and it was actually the USS Eldridge. And this is kind of a little bit of an urban myth about a experiment that went on in World War II, where a ship vanished, disappeared. And they actually did make a movie of it, which is, of course, what I know about of it. It's not because of the actual history. I know from a movie from the 80s called The Philadelphia Experiment, and which I actually always used to really kind of enjoy that movie. But I wondered, did anyone else pick up on that, or is it just me being a geek?
I cheated earlier on, and I to credit where credit's due. I was on Screen Crush on YouTube.
Oh yes, we've had Ryan Airy on the show before. Yeah, he's really good. Yeah.
The 67 Easter eggs that were in this in Loki, so I picked up on that, and that was one of them. I remember watching that movie as a teenager and really enjoying it. So it was good to have that blast from the past, and that's where I got the reference earlier to the Yellow Jacket helmet as well. I'd seen the. I'd pointed out to my wife the Thanos helicopter, but Keith, that one, the tank as well, apparently bonkers. Somebody had tweeted that the tank that you see, you pick up on, it looks a bit strange, was actually maybe another urban myth about a nuclear-based tank that the US military, and to take Robin Williams's quote from which was Good Morning Vietnam, military intelligence, having a nuclear tank, so if it gets hit, it blows up and goes nuclear. That apparently was also in there, so there's tons of Easter eggs in this one, and for the most part, missed most of them anyway. Yeah.
We'll have to try and get Ryan Airy back on. Unfortunately, I had technical issues on the day that we got him on the show, which was a bit irritating. I'm still gutted about that. But yeah, anybody out there, check out Screen Crush. Really good if you want sort of Easter eggs and film analysis and links and all of that sort of stuff. He does some really good work over there. So
it's not criticism of Screen Crush, but there was no reference to Withnail and I, even though we did have the main actor, the lead in that.
What was his name? Is it Richard E. Grant?
That's him.
I wonder if anyone watching this is actually playing the same game at home.
It's
Put
still
in
away.
the comments if you are. I'd be keen to know. Very cool. I'm just talking of comments. I'm just looking to see if there's any others. We're getting quite a few in, but I just want some of them completely off topic. So it's so in terms of a recommendation, Garbage has said, talking about Superman and Lois, I highly recommend Invincible. It's in the UK. It's on Amazon. It's superhero related. I think some of you guys have mentioned this, right? Clive's doing a.
Yeah, I think on a previous episode I mentioned that I'd been watching that show and was loving it. Yeah, it's great.
I've not actually watched the series yet because I absolutely adore. It's one of my favourite comics, and I've read. Where am I now? Up to about 80 odd issues through. So I was ahead of the game there. So I'm very much. It's on my list to get to watch. No, the comics are absolutely outstanding, and the artwork and the humour in Invincible. I'm hoping the humour has come through to the TV series as well.
Okay. It very much has, yeah.
Great.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Right then. So where do we? I'll start with you, actually, Pete, because I know you always like a little bit of speculation, and you're always, wonder whether shows are actually going to stick the landing or not. Where are you at with? What are your predictions for the Loki finale?
My predictions are that Loki becomes the king of the multiverse timelines, and he sort of runs whatever the new TVA is, and lives happily ever after, causing mischief in the world. But and then Sylvie gets to live a nice, quiet life somewhere that she wants, peacefully with friends. Yeah, I think that's how it goes.
You don't think it was Agatha all along?
I'm not thinking in this instance that it was Agatha all along. Yeah.
Fair enough. What about you, Claire? I mean, I know you're kind of, you describe yourself as a sort of more casual viewer of the MCU.
Yeah.
Have you got, coming at it from that point of view, have you got any particular thoughts or wishes or anything as to how this might wrap up, or are you just here for the journey?
I think I think I'm probably just here for the journey. I mean, to me, you wouldn't have anticipated that was going to happen in this episode. I just I can't predict, and I don't know. I mean, people talk about the different predictions. It was Loki all along. Sorry, I've just read some of those comments. I think that's what somebody's just echoing what you're saying, Pete. I honestly, I wish I could say something really, bright and intelligent and insightful. And tonight was it was bonkers. And so I don't know. I'm just trying to think, what would John write?
Yeah.
What would Monty Python do? It's that kind of I've gone again, haven't I?
No, you're back.
I kind of like the surrealism. I'm back. Okay. Yeah. I honestly have got nothing intelligent to add, unfortunately. I wish I did. I'm going to bow to Clive's informed opinion, because he always seems to be spot on.
Yeah, well,
Sorry,
we'll get
About
there.
that.
No,
Blimey.
That's the bugbear.
What about, before we get to Clive, what about you, Graham? Any thoughts of who's behind the curtain, as it were?
I mentioned it before, and focal point on Clive here. I'm going to again, for the second time, reference one of Clive's comments from a previous live stream here. Is I'm expecting some reference, if not to reference a big bad now. I think that a big villain's coming, because what they did with Fatatus with was it Julia Louis-Dreyfus? I thought it was really lame, and they completely they missed it. They went in for a punch, but it was a drunken punch, and it was just like and it was missed, and it was wrong. But with this one, I'm just feeling, you've got the Wizard of Oz, that the curtain's been pulled back and you're walking in. It could be Loki, yes. So the thoughts are, there's a Loki with a Loki, and a Pete, Loki, mate, you roll us over, amazing. But I don't, if it's Loki, fine. If it's Mobius, fine. We get more of them, and I love them. But I think reference now to the big villain now, it is about right. We probably won't get it with Black Widow, the movie, because obviously it's usually in sequential order, I know, but you may have something happening in the movie. We haven't seen it yet, but I'm really hoping, it's not knowing, it's a hope that we get some reference there, and if it goes multiverse, then fine. I was right, and I get to say no.
Well, before we get Clive's opinion, Garbage has put, Loki will say his underlying love for Loki, and Loki will get jealous at Loki, and the new Loki will come and save Loki from Loki, and there will be a sequel called Loki's. There we go. Will that star Richard E. Grant, is what I want to know. There we go. Right, Clive?
I hope not.
So, Clive, we're off to see the wizard. who come on, tell us who's behind the curtain.
Who's behind the curtain? Well, I see that's part of the problem with, isn't it? It's like they've built it up now, and they've already done the Wizard of Oz ending, right? Well, they've already done the Wizard of Oz reveal, where it's like there is no big bad. Haha, look, there's nobody. It's just a little man behind the curtain. So they can't do that. They can't really do that twice, I think.
Right.
But they do seem to be, like leading up to this big reveal, this big bad, this idea that there's going to be behind it all, there's going to be like a Doctor Doom or a Kang the Conqueror, especially with the Ravonna Renslayer connection there. And, we know he's coming in the new, Quantumania, Ant-Man and the Wasp 3, whatever they're calling it. We know that's coming, so there's a hint that we might get that. There's always the possibility that it could be Loki. I must say that I would find that a really disappointing reveal.
Yeah.
And I don't see how that connects up with the themes that they've been sort of going for here, right? I think another possibility is that the big bad is like hiding in plain sight, and it is the judge. It is Ravonna Renslayer. So here's how that might work, and so perhaps there were these timekeepers, right? They were actually genuinely 3 timekeepers that set up the TVA, put everything in place, but then they died. Okay. At some point in the past, they died, but all the levers of power were still there. So she just steps in and takes the levers of power and sets up these kind of robot, dummies, just in case anyone ever goes to the inner sanctum. But it is her that's running everything. So that's kind of a possibility. if we're just relying on people we've seen within the show, I think. But otherwise, there is, do they end it with a sort of a big bad reveal? At the moment, I'm very much at a loss as to where they're going to leave Loki and Sylvie and and Mobius.
Yeah,
because I'm not quite sure what season 2 of the show would look like at the moment. I mean, that's in one way that's exciting, but in another way it just feels like it's just going to be like its own little self-contained thing. And then does it mean anything? I mean, does it have to, that's the thing, is the MCU, does it have to mean something? Does it have to all I mean, we get all excited. Oh, they're going to introduce this big thing, but I think we've seen with the previous shows that they don't tend to introduce the big thing. They like giving us these little comics pieces, these new characters, these but they generally won't introduce like this massive character. But maybe this is the exception. So we shall see, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like that there's been a lot of things set up that haven't yet been paid off. Like we've got all this sort of stuff with, I don't know how relevant it is, but they keep focusing on that high school pen that's in her office. Whenever Mobius goes to see her, and that's been kind of, like that hasn't gone anywhere. But was that setting up something? I'm not too sure. So, but in the meantime, Graham, you have been renamed the Critical Drinker 2. So there you go. You've been rebranded.
So I'm drinking for 2. Am I being too critical? Am I being criticised for my drinking? Could we qualify the name there?
I think it's just to do with Richard E. Grant. Garbage has actually said you people will come up with a better ideas than what is actually going to happen. So there you go. Maybe we have.
I mean, the burning question, I suppose. I'm sorry to not trying to take over your job as the moderator, Keith, but I'm kind of interested to know: are people excited actually to know what's going to happen? Are we, is there a certain expectation? Are we actually looking forward to? Now we're really nearly at the end of the series of what actually happens. Do we care enough about
Claire.
it?
I wish I was more excited. I'll be honest. I'm not as I've really enjoyed the Marvel Cinematic Universe and tend to get quite excited about everything, but I'm a little bit kind of ambivalent, I guess, about the whole thing at the moment. It's kind of, yes, of course I'm going to watch next week and see it out, and we will indeed have a stream to round it all off, but I wish I was more excited. There are other shows that I'm more excited to watch, sadly. But that's me. Sorry. Clive.
I'm really interested to see it. I'm enjoying the show. I feel like the things that have maybe go wow in the show, they've immediately like retconned, like either in the end credits or like the next one, like, oh wow, they actually went there and killed the star of the show. I didn't really expect that one to stick, to be fair. And then then they killed Mobius, the best supporting character before Richard E. Grant turned up.
Hey.
So and then they've wrote those back. So, but then, they are very much this seem to be aping rather modern Doctor Who in terms of the thing. It's like, they've hit on all these different things. And one of the things the modern Doctor Who was very good at was killing people and then bringing them back. So, they're really hitting on all those. All those tropes, but with bigger budget, bigger effects. So.
My thoughts there. But anyway, what about you, Graham? Are you excited? Apart from being drunk.
I am not drunk. I am not fit to drive a vehicle. I'll give you that. Claire, quick question. I think it is more closure, but I take it that next Wednesday when it comes out, I'll be looking forward to it. But yeah, I do really want to see what's going to happen. Excited, no. But if you want to put it on a level of where Fatatus was, then
Falcon and the Winter Soldier, in case people are wondering what he's talking about.
It's an acronym.
Oh yeah, right, thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. You were there at the beginning. I just didn't care for that one. One Division, yes. No. This one just less than One Division. But then again, they could really leave us with a cliffhanger rather than tying it all up with a neat green bow. I hope they don't read it. I hope that there's enough questions to lead into a season 2, definitely.
Okay. Pete, what about you? Are you excited?
I can't say that I'm excited, no, because I just don't see a huge positive outcome for season 1 here overall. So not overly excited, but if we're talking about what our hopes are for season 2 and beyond, I would love it if they would make it more frivolous, and instead of trying to tell part of the story, instead just gave us 6 side stories about a crazy Loki prank or something. If the DB Cooper section had been 1 episode of this, that would have been great.
Yeah, agreed.
Interesting.
If the Philadelphia experiment thing had been 1, great.
Yeah, I like that. Interesting.
And this was just sort of like his crazy gambits through time. So my hope is that maybe that's what happens season 2.
Nice. I like that. I'm actually more interested in your show that you've just pitched there than I am the one that's actually happening.
Yeah.
Claire, what about you? Answering your own question, are you excited?
I think excited. No. If I'm being totally honest, I think I've learned with a lot of stuff that we all tend to watch not to have too higher expectation. Because the higher expectation, the easier it is to get let down and feel it's all very anticlimactic. I think my big concern is that there isn't going to be a proper conclusion. And I don't want to be left with some sort of kind of cliffhanger that doesn't really round off the story properly. I am, because there seems to be still such a lot going on. But I suppose maybe it is all geared towards finding out who this kind of thing, entity, goody, baddie, whatever is. And I'm not quite sure how they can really kind of provide that satisfactorily. And I think sort of touching on what Pete said, if it was to turn out that it was Loki kind of like being the marionette and manipulating all this timeline from the beginning, I think I'd be really disappointed. That's almost like the waking up and having a dream Dallas or Dynasty moment,
Although, if they did end this with Bob Newhart in a bed with Loki, I would just find it amazing. Yeah.
Well, I have to say, Yahtzee's kind of summed up ever since Endgame, everything has gone rather meh. And I must admit, I don't necessarily disagree with that comment. Yeah. I feel a bit like that.
Can I just say, though, with bringing Owen Wilson in, I was expecting a bit more. Wow. Because Owen, and I'll quantify that now, with Owen Wilson as an actor, I said the word wow a lot. There's a YouTube spliced together video of 101 Owen Wilson wows. And I'm not sure, I'm going to have to go through all of Loki again just to see if he does. But on this episode that we've been on, those last 2, and this last one as well, wow. 8. So Clive has actually been the most, doing the statistics, has said wow the most times. So actually, rather than being meh, I think what we're lacking is wow from Owen Wilson.
Yeah.
To see
I bet Owen Wilson did say wow when he saw Richard E. Grant first act, though, and come on set. I bet he was like, wow, there's Richard E. Grant. I've always wanted to work with Richard E. Grant. I'm sure he has. I personally want to see the show Pete's talked about. I just think that's brilliant. That would be so entertaining and make much more sense.
I just thought of another episode. He goes off and seduces Agatha Christie for a week. And that's why we got that missing week of Agatha Christie's life. Right?
Yeah.
Oh, my God. Yeah.
That's a different show.
She was being seduced by Loki.
Yeah.
That's a different show, but it sounds great. Okay, guys. Well, listen, I feel like unless anybody's got any final pressing things to say about this episode of Loki, I feel like we're nearly ready to call it a wrap. But anything else that anybody wants to add?
I think
can I add?
Take it.
No, go on, Pete, because you've said no. Honestly,
mine was going to be a stupid joke, so you go.
Pete does a stupid joke after you, Claire. Go on.
All right, then. I think it's very interesting. At the beginning of the series, we were all calling Owen Wilson because he had gravitas and he was holding the show and whatever. However, what I've noticed is that all of us have started to talk about Mobius and using his character name. So I think that says a lot about how much we have invested in him as a character in the show. That was my little nugget.
Yeah.
No, it's absolutely true. Absolutely true.
And Pete, what was going to be your final comment?
I was just going to say that it really reminds me of my favorite movie, With Nail and I, starring one of my favorite actors, Richard Griffiths.
There we go.
Perfect.
We all thought you were going to say Richard E. Grant. Right, guys. So, thank you for being part of the panel. I really appreciate it. And thank you to all the people who have been viewing and putting in the comments today. I really appreciate that as well. Claire, you've always got a lot going on. Where can people find all this good work you're doing? Let our audience know.
Well, I interview a lot of seasoned and up-and-coming filmmakers for my channel Premiere Scene, so you can visit premierscene.net. My latest interview is with Goran Visnich, that you would probably know from ER and The Boys, as well, about his latest film, Fatima, which is great. Also, I'm the producer of a documentary that I made with my brother, Anthony Bueno, Cleaning Up the Town, Remembering Ghostbusters. So if you are a Ghostbusters fan or a fan of 80s movies and the whole retrospective making of, then in the US, you can find us on Crackle. It can be seen for free on there. And in the UK region B, then we're on Blu-ray, and you can find that via our website, buenoproductions.com, or Amazon, Zavi, online, and also in HMV and FOP.
And on this channel. And on this channel. There's a full review of the Blu-ray with links to where to find it. So, yes, please check that out. Graham, apart from watching films with Richard E. Grant, what are you working on?
Hangover.
Sobering up, a new liver. So,
thank you.
Great. Yes, novelist. I'm still working through a draft of Where the River Bends. It's a modern Western based in my beloved Wales, in the mountains of Wales. And when that is completed, I fully intend on driving through to publish it as well. So still working through it, but yes, full intention to publish soon.
Cool. Well done. Clive, what about you? Where can people find your work?
People go to Vimeo, they can put my name in, they will find my most recent work as a filmmaker, a bunch of short films there. So, yeah.
Cool. And Pete?
You can check out the Let's See What's Out There podcast, available on all good podcasting apps, LSWOTcast on social media. Yeah. And thank you very much.
Cool. And Garbage has put, thank you, everyone. We had different views and we all got along like a house on fire. It's been fantastic. Thank you all. So we do appreciate that. And indeed, yeah, if you have enjoyed this stream, please do consider giving it a like and checking out some of the other work on this channel. We've obviously got similar streams on all of the previous episodes of Loki, as well as Falcon and Winter Soldier, WandaVision. We've got podcasts covering Star Trek Picard, Star Trek Discovery, and The Mandalorian, as well as other film topics. And also, if you're into physical media at all, check out some of the reviews on this channel. There's unboxings, there's comparisons, there's reviews. There's a really good one on the Ghostbusters documentary. So check all of that stuff out. If you want to see any more of my other work, I also have another channel, which is British Isles. That's EYLES, as in my last name, where you can find more of my, short films, etc., that I've made. And, any feedback for this stuff is always welcome. Yeah, thank you, everyone. I really appreciate all the comments. Sorry if I didn't get to every single one. But I do appreciate that. And if you found this after the fact and you've got any comments, please put them in the section down below. And as I said, consider subscribing to the channel and checking out more of the work. But in the meantime, thank you to all my guests. And thank you for everybody for watching. And we will catch you on the next episode of Let's See What's Out There, Loki. Bye for now.
Bye.